A PhD is a long, arduous journey, and you could be failing without even realizing it. Now, the thing about a PhD is that it kind of is different to everything else an academic, a clever person has done. You get to the beginning of a PhD and you bring all of these behavioral patterns with you at the beginning of your PhD, and you just continue with them without even thinking about each behavior, and it doesn't kind of serve you now as it did in the past. And it's about recognizing those behaviors and really understanding them. We'll be going through them in this video. And also, self-sabotage is a real thing. Imposter syndrome, directing your focus to things that don't really matter. All of these things are just constant battles that you just need to remind yourself throughout your PhD that you just need to stay focused. You need to do little bits every day. And self-sabotage and the imposter syndrome, they are so loud sometimes that they're really hard to ignore. So now in this video, we're going to go through everything you need to know about making sure you don't fail your PhD without even realizing it. Now, I just want to let you know a quick disclaimer. Now, I have been through several universities. I've been through a PhD. I've been through postdocs at a number of institutions, and I have seen about 3 students fail their PhD. One failed outright, i.e. they submitted their thesis and they got a failure and got downgraded to a master's. And I've seen another couple kind of just drop out in their first year, in their second year. And I've even seen people kind of fail by giving up because they've been in a PhD for like 7 or 8 years and they're just like, just can't do this anymore. I'm going to go get a job. And then their PhD just kind of falls by the side. It starts with kind of, going part-time and then they just disappear. But those odds should allow you to relax a little bit, because not everyone that goes into a PhD gets one, but in my experience, very, very few people actually fail outright. And in this video, we're going to go through the things that I think separated them from the rest. This video is brought to you by my newsletter. Go check it out at andrewstapleton.com.au/newsletter. There you'll get 5 emails when you sign up, all the way from the perfect PhD daily schedule, how to write the perfect abstract podcast that I've been on, and more. So go sign up. I'll see you in your email box. Inbox. Okay, so the first thing I think is really important about a PhD is that you kind of understand the behaviors that got you to your beginning of your PhD and then let go of the ones that no longer serve you. I want you to think back to your undergraduate. Now, were you the sort of student that would forget to do certain assignments until the night before? Or would you purposely kind of leave revising until 2 or 3 days or even the night before the exam? These behaviors will not serve you any good anymore, because your PhD is about sustained commitment throughout a number of years, and it's about starting strong, finishing strong, and just doing the same thing throughout your PhD onwards. Each day, put in a single kind of couple of hours onto the tally and just keep going. The thing about the old behavioral patterns is that they will not serve you. You cannot forget about laying the foundation of your PhD early on and then sprint finish. The sprint finish that you've probably seen in PhD students that are in year 3 is because they have laid the foundations early on. They have put in a lot of work and seen no immediate feedback, but now all that hard work, all the failure, all the laying the foundations, all the learning is paid off, and now they can use that to leverage their growth and their speed later on in their PhD. But at the moment, you are just looking at them and going, well, they didn't really achieve much in their first and second year. I'll be fine. They did a lot of work. So just keep on trudging through. You also can bring this kind of idea of fear and worry with you. Now, I don't know about you, but I was always motivated by grades. Grades were the thing that set me out from everyone else, and I had a fear and anxiety, there I got it, that I wouldn't get the grades that I felt like I deserved. And so I always had this kind of momentum pushing me forward, this anxiety that I was like, maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's bubbling up. But those behaviors, you do have to get on top of your anxiety, because in a PhD, that shit can just build up to something that becomes unmanageable. It may have helped you early on, but now is going to serve you as a sort of a negative force on your path to your PhD. Another thing I see with behavior patterns is that people do not start to think big. When you're bringing all of your knowledge with you through your undergraduate, it is the stuff you've learned that you need to sit exams on. And so you're kind of in this little bubble of knowledge. And I see people not think bigger. How do I become the world leader in this? How do I create a world record in a certain characteristic of, in my case, a solar cell, or it could be something else? How do I stand out as a leader in this field? What will make me the best in the world? That's the sort of mindset you need to go in with. And thinking too small, just trying to do these incremental changes, they're very important in the short term, but ultimately your big goal should be that you want to become a world leader in this certain aspect, in this topic. And the behavior patterns of just having your little knowledge bubble and staying comfortably inside it, that will no longer serve you. So those behavior patterns, I think when you get to the beginning, look at them and go, okay, which ones do I need to let go? Which ones do I need to take with me? And which ones are just downright damaging to this PhD? It can be difficult, but you can do it. The second way you could fail without even realizing it is holding on to an idea that will not go anywhere. Now, the thing about a PhD is that it's like failure, interesting result, and then you follow that interesting result. But you need to get around all of the failures first before you can kind of find that thing that will reward you so you can put it in your PhD, which means it's a novel and new contribution to the field. Now, the thing about this is you do have to accept failure as part of your everyday life. Now, I always use the 80-20 or the Pareto principle, and I look at what's working. What efforts right now in your PhD, or what efforts will you be able to identify later on in your PhD that give you 80% of the results for 20% of the effort? So what I like to do early on in any project is I like to sow seeds. I try this, and I did this in my postdocs as well. I tried this experiment, I tried this, I followed this idea, and then I just followed it for a couple of months. And I was like, okay, let's take all of these ideas, let's see where they bubble, not doing anything too deep. I'd report back to my supervisors what I was doing, and then one or two of them would catch on. And I'd be like, okay, this is giving me the majority of my good results at the moment and the most interesting results. And the thing is that once you find it, you tend to become passionate about that thing because you're like, oh, it's working. And then you quickly forget about the things that have failed. But when you're in the kind of trenches and you're doing it, it can be really sort of disheartening to see all your ideas fail. But remember, what you're doing is you're just trying to separate, you're trying to sieve out the rubbish and keep the good stuff. So yes, holding on to one of these rubbish ideas, it may be a passion project, it may be something, it may be your idea and you're like, I definitely want to follow this. It could be the thing that doesn't work. An idea, that your supervisor came up with or someone else came up with may be the thing that kind of works, and you should follow that thing. So holding on to ideas for far too long can really impact your PhD, but always be out there trying new ideas, try it for a couple of months, which one's working, which one's not working, what's interesting, what is likely to get me interesting results in the future, and just slowly hone in on those things. Now go check out my other video where I talk about using the 80-20 principle throughout your PhD so that you can kind of essentially accelerate that progress and get to the stuff that really will make your PhD awesome. Another thing that people do without really realizing, and this is the biggest issue with self-sabotaging, is procrastination. The warm bubble and excitement of doing something that you're not meant to do when you've got this pile of work or this looming deadline. Procrastination. I don't know why it's so ubiquitous across the human race, but I certainly struggled with it in early sort of times in my PhD because I could not get away from Facebook. I could not get away from just doing other things. I was in a new country, Australia. I was always sort of drawn out to be drinking with my friends, partying, and then that procrastination just seeped into into my everyday work life. And so I'd rock up at 10 and then I'd sit there and I'd be like, well, I should go for a cup of tea or cup of coffee. I'd go do that, and then I'd be like, well, in an hour and a half it's lunchtime, so I won't do anything. And that is the pattern I found myself in, and it's a way of protecting you. Your brain is going, don't try that because maybe you'll fail at it, or maybe you won't be as good as you think you are. It's that ego sort of bubbling up again. And really procrastination is about your uncanny ability to take your attention and direct it somewhere else, somewhere that isn't useful. somewhere that feels fun and it feels warm and exciting, but in fact it's not useful. And one of the biggest things I see is that, you do have to look after yourself as a PhD student, but there are times when you do just need to be a little bit tough on yourself. You have to sit down, you have to write, you have to go into the lab and do that experiment you don't want to do. You have to do all of the cleaning up in chemistry that you don't want to do. You have to do all the prep work. Maybe you have to go in on a weekend. I hate to say it, but sometimes you just need to push through some barriers to get there. Now, when you do it all the time and you're always forcing yourself, in meditation, they say never force. And that's true in like nearly everything. Just if you're forcing yourself all the time, that is not healthy. But sometimes you just need to go, you know what? I'm going to just sit down and I'm going to do this thing until it's done, or I'm going to spend 2 hours doing this thing. And not a lot of people are able to kind of, first of all, get through that procrastination, and sitting down and just doing something until it's finished isn't glamorous. It doesn't feel necessarily good, but at the end of it, it's a weight off your shoulders. And I always feel brilliant when I've just focused some of my attention onto something that just needs to be done. The fourth reason why people fail their PhD without even realizing it is because they are a passenger of their supervisor's research and ideas, and they never take the driver's seat. Now, I have seen plenty of micromanager supervisors, and they never give up the reins to their students, to their PhD students, and so they're always just in control. But remember, this is your thesis, and in the early stages, like in your first year, yeah, sure, become a passenger. You are there to understand things, to get used to things. But somewhere in the second year, maybe towards the end of the first year, you should start coming up with your own ideas, and you should be able to convince your supervisor to let you follow them. And it can't always be easy because they've got their own agenda. They've got the university looking on them saying, bring in money, write more grants, otherwise you're fired. And so they can have this external pressure, and they've got you going, I want to try this thing, I'm not sure it'll work, but I think it'll work. And they just want to stay on their course because it's what they've built their career on. But throughout your second year, that's when you should really be in that momentum of your own research, your own ideas, and you should be reporting back to your supervisor. And then in the third year, your supervisor should really just be there to make sure you don't do anything too crazy, that you won't do anything that will actually sabotage the science or the integrity of your PhD. And so remember, you are the one that needs to defend your PhD at the end of it, not your supervisor. And I've seen too many student-supervisor relationships where they just can't let go. The empty nest syndrome. They can't just let your ideas out of their own nest. They need to hold it because, essentially ideas and papers are the currency of the academic world, and they just want to keep it all for themselves. But if you've got a good supervisor that you choose early on, you speak to their previous students and you see that they are there to empower you, to allow you to develop as an academic in your own right, that will help a lot. So yes, don't be a passenger. At one point, push them out of the car, jump in and let them follow in a car behind or run behind the car. So there we have it. There are all of the ways you can fail a PhD without even realizing it. Let me know in the comments what you would add. And if you like this video, head over to academiainsider.com. There you'll find my insider community where it's a bunch of awesome academics helping each other through their PhDs and their careers in academia, and also my ebook, The Ultimate Academic Writing Toolkit, that you can use to speed up your writing. All of the building blocks for building up your paper are included, and you'll find out the secret ingredient for promoting your research so that it boosts your career earlier. So go check it out. All right, I shall see you in the next video.